To the channel, don't forget to leave your like and share and make comments that can improve so we can bring more content to you. Sign up now on Temu and get an exclusive discount. Don't wait! When you register today, you'll receive a special discount coupon to use on your purchases. Take advantage of amazing deals and save in style. Preparation before the approach. The context of the operation. Description of the environment. A hot, oppressive night in Sao Paulo. The heavy atmosphere seemed like an omen of what was to come. At the Rota headquarters, a group of officers was preparing for another patrol. The chosen neighborhood was notorious for being a hotspot for drug trafficking and robberies. Police intelligence reports indicated that a gang was using a specific house to hide drugs and weapons. An informant had revealed that 2 of the gang's main members would be in the area that night. The operation was set up to apprehend these individuals and collect evidence that could lead to the arrest of the entire gang. The briefing. The team's captain, a veteran of many missions, led the briefing. Every detail was reviewed, the entrances and exits of the area, possible escape routes, and the suspects' backgrounds. "We're not dealing with amateurs," he warned. "These guys won't hesitate to shoot." Psychological and emotional preparation. The tension of waiting. The officers armed themselves, checking each piece of equipment. The tension in the air was palpable, but they were trained for this. Nervous jokes and casual conversations served to ease the pressure, but each knew what was at stake. Memories of the past. Some of the officers, in silence, recalled past operations where the unexpected had happened. The death of a colleague, the failure to capture a suspect, the consequences of a wrong decision, all of this shaped how they prepared for another mission. Leadership. The captain, experienced and respected, knew his team members well. He knew who was dealing with external pressures, who needed extra encouragement. His role was not only to lead, but also to ensure that everyone was mentally prepared for whatever might happen. The equipment. Weapons and protection. Each officer checked their weapon, bulletproof vest, and other protective gear. Nothing could fail. Any error, no matter how small, could be fatal. Technology and communication. Communication radios were tested. The operation required everyone to be in constant contact, ready to move as a single unit. Drones and body cameras were integrated into the operation to capture every moment of the approach, offering not only additional protection but also potential evidence. Departure to the location. On the way, inside the vehicles, silence dominated. Each was absorbed in their thoughts, mentally reviewing the instructions. The streets of Sao Paulo blurred past the window as the group advanced toward the designated location. Arrival at the scene. They parked at a safe distance, away from prying eyes. From there, they proceeded on foot, each taking up their designated position. The stage was set. Now, it was just a matter of time until everything unfolded. Execution of the approach. First contact. Identification of the suspects. The officers spotted the suspects on the corner, casually chatting, unaware of the approaching team. A signal was given, and the team split up, surrounding the individuals to block any possible escape. Initiating the approach, the first contact was swift and effective. "Police! Hands where I can see them!" The captain's authoritative voice cut through the air. The suspects, caught off guard, hesitated for a moment but quickly complied. They were well aware of Rota's reputation. Verbal communication. As one officer approached to conduct the search, the captain maintained verbal control of the situation. "Who are you? What are you doing here at this hour?" The questions were direct, leaving no room for evasion. Tension and situation control. The suspect's resistance. One of the suspects, more nervous, began stammering in his responses. His hesitation made the officers more cautious. "Why are you so nervous?" "Is there something I should know?" the captain pressed, noticing the sweat running down the man's face. Mutual distrust. The second suspect, on the other hand, seemed too calm. This was also a warning sign. He tried to argue, saying they weren't doing anything wrong. "We were just talking, officer. Nothing more." But the officers weren't easily fooled. The searches began. Hands on the wall, legs apart, as the officers conducted a thorough search. Every pocket, every fold of clothing was examined. One of the officers found a small knife in the first suspect's pocket. "And what's this? What do you need this for?" he asked with a disdainful tone. The escalation of the situation. Discovery of evidence. While checking the backpack that one of the suspects was carrying, an officer found small packets of drugs. The atmosphere immediately became more tense. "We found something here," he said, holding up the packets for the captain to see. The suspect's reactions. The first suspect tried to explain, mumbling that the drugs weren't his, that he was just holding them for a friend. The second suspect, realizing that the situation was spiraling out of control, began to back away, looking around as if searching for an escape route. Rapid intervention. The captain noticed the movement and, with a quick gesture, ordered one of the officers to restrain the second suspect. "Don't even think about it. Stay still." The force of the voice, combined with the officer's intimidating presence, was enough to stop any attempt to flee. Communication and coordination. Request for backup. With the immediate situation under control, the captain used the radio to call for reinforcements and report the discovery. "We have suspects with drugs. We need backup and transportation to take them to the station." Discussion of rights. The second suspect began demanding his rights, claiming he was being treated unfairly. The captain, patiently, replied, "You'll be informed of your rights at the station. For now, what you need to do is cooperate." Witnesses and onlookers. Some residents began to approach, drawn by the commotion. The captain assigned an officer to keep the crowd at bay, ensuring that the operation wasn't compromised. Detention and legal procedures. Reading of rights. With the arrival of reinforcements, the suspects were handcuffed and informed of their rights. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court." Documentation. The officers began documenting the scene, photographing the evidence found and recording the details of the approach. It was essential to ensure that each step was well documented to avoid any future legal challenges. Transport to the station. The suspects were placed in separate patrol cars, still under close surveillance. "We'll take them to the station and see what else we can uncover." Immediate developments. Reflections on the approach. On the way back, the officers briefly discussed the operation. "It was a good approach," said one. "But we still need to check what else they might be hiding." On the way to the station, at the station, the suspects would be formally interrogated. The officers knew that the next phase would be crucial in building a solid case against the gang. Developments and consequences. Interrogation at the station. First phase of the interrogation. At the station, the suspects were separated and taken to interrogation rooms. Each was confronted with the evidence found during the approach. "We have you with drugs. Do you want to tell us where they came from?" the investigator asked the first suspect. Tense responses. The first suspect, now calmer, tried to build a narrative. "I'm not a dealer, officer. That stuff isn't mine. I was holding it for a friend, but I don't know whose it is." The response was evasive, but the investigator was prepared to deal with such excuses. The pressure of the interrogation, the tension in the room was palpable. The investigator knew he needed more than a vague confession. He needed information that could lead to other members of the gang. "Look, you're in a tough spot. If you cooperate now, things might get a little easier for you." Revelations and breaking of loyalties. Psychological pressure. The second suspect, already familiar with the system, tried to remain calm, but the investigator noticed signs of nervousness. Do you think your loyalty is worth it? If you don't talk, you'll end up carrying all the weight alone. First confessions. After hours of psychological pressure, the first suspect began to reveal information. Okay, I know a guy. He asked me to hold this stuff. I can take you to him. The investigator paused, analyzing the truthfulness of the information before proceeding. Breaking codes, the second suspect, seeing that his colleague was starting to give in, felt his loyalty weaken. He finally began to talk, offering names and locations that could help the police dismantle the drug operation in the area. Legal and operational consequences. Expansion of the investigation. With the information obtained, the police began to expand the investigation. New operations were planned to capture other gang members and discover the source of the drugs. The initial approach was just the beginning of a much larger operation. Impact on the community. The successful operation brought a renewed sense of security to the community. The presence of Rhoda, though feared by some, was seen by others as necessary protection in a neighborhood where crime was a constant. Legal measures. The suspects were formally charged with drug possession and trafficking association. Defense lawyers tried to argue that the approach had been excessive, but the evidence collected and the testimonies of the officers were enough to ensure the case proceeded to trial. Reflections and lessons learned. Internal discussion. Back at headquarters, the Rhoda officers reflected on the operation. That was well executed, but there's always room for improvement, commented the captain. They reviewed every step, looking for ways to make future operations even more efficient and safe. Personal impact. For the officers involved, the operation left lasting marks. Some reflected on the risks involved, others on the lives they impacted. Each had their way of dealing with the consequences of their work, knowing that in Sao Paulo's streets, every day brought a new challenge. Preparation for future operations. The lessons learned from this approach would be incorporated into future training. The streets of Sao Paulo were always changing, and Rhoda needed to evolve with them to continue serving and protecting effectively.